The end justifies the means, doesn't it? Presidents do what they have to do in times of crisis. Abraham Lincoln shut down newspapers. Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus. Abraham Lincoln put New York newspaper editors in jail. FDR approved the internment of American citizens of Japanese descent. The Supreme Court said in that, pressing public necessity may sometimes justify the existence of such restrictions. During the Korean War, Harry Truman seized the steel mills. The steel workers were about to go on strike. Harry Truman ordered his Secretary of Commerce to seize the steel mills. He had no constitutional authority to do that, and the Supreme Court struck him down after about 2 months. In his memoirs, Truman said, "The president must always act in a national emergency." Well, put yourself in George Bush's shoes. Maybe you lie. I mean, sometimes situational ethicists tell us lies are a good thing. When your 8-year-old daughter comes out and going to her first dance with her 10-year-old boyfriend, you tell her she looks like $1 million, even if she really looked like she came out of a rat's nest. Sometimes lies help.
Yes, I cannot be an absolutist on this, but I don't think that the Bush administration lies about the guilt or innocence of men in Guantanamo, about whether or not there was uranium coming from Niger to Iraq, are the types of things that we should condone in our leaders. Yeah, I'm feeling really weird here because the next Supreme Court Justice I'm going to quote with approval is Rehnquist, who in my world is about as bad on the law as anyone. But in a book that he wrote, he talked about this issue from a slightly different perspective, and how in the times of trouble, when the country is stressed, when we're at war, executive power tends to expand, and after the crisis is over, the executive power shrinks, Congress and the Supreme Court reassert themselves. That is certainly, as I see it, our history, and the historian is nodding agreement. So, but you know, when you talk about Truman seizing the steel mills and Lincoln suspending habeas corpus, and you know, Roosevelt locking up the Japanese Americans, what they did was subjected to scrutiny under the rule of law. And maybe they did not have memos, as Bush had memos, that were incredibly poorly written and gave him justification for some of the things that he did. I don't know. I'm sure that there were people in the legal counsel's office in the White House advising them all. But Lincoln suspended habeas, if I'm remembering correctly, April 1860 or 61, whichever it was, while Congress is out of session, because there's a question, can he suspend habeas or does that have to be Congress? Congress came back in session, and in July, if I'm remembering the history correctly, Congress ratified his suspension. And eventually, 6 years or 4 years later, 1866, we get the case Ex parte Milliken, which talks about whether or not the president had that power. And Roosevelt's internment of the Japanese was challenged in court. Yes, the Supreme Court upheld that. And Justice Douglas later on in life said that that was a black mark on his career as he saw it, the worst decision that he ever made, and one that he was ashamed of until the day that he died. The presidents sometimes act extra legally or in ways that we might in hindsight say so, yes. But one of the incredible beauties of our system has been that their actions are subject to scrutiny. And what really got me about Bush was his assertion that what he was doing, at least in Guantanamo, could not be challenged in court. I mean, I think he took it a step further by saying to the Supreme Court, you don't have jurisdiction over me at all. And they said, no, yeah, we do. And you're wrong, Mr. President. Took them 6 years to say it, but they eventually got around to saying it.
You know, in a very pithy way,